Hello, everybody. My name is Morgan Davidson. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Canadian Liver Foundation, and I'm super thrilled to be kicking off the first in a new series of videos we're looking forward to publishing over the coming months, and we're calling it our Meet the Researcher series. Our community and our supporters know that the donations that the CLF receives help fund important life-saving research into liver disease, which helps to advance the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of liver disease and even cures. With our Meet the Researcher series, our hope is that we can showcase this work and introduce you, our community, to the people who are behind it. These are the people who are making the advances and breakthroughs that support our vision of a world without liver disease. So with that said, I'm really excited to start our first chat in this series today with Dr. Lori West. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Lori West is Professor of Pediatrics Surgery, Medical Microbiology and Immunology, and Laboratory Medicine Pathology at the University of Alberta, Edmonton, Canada. So I did have to really read that to make sure I got it all. Dr. West is also the director of the Alberta Transplant Institute, and she is a founding director of the Canadian Donation Transplant Research Program, the CDTRP. And that is a coalition of 350 plus participants at 33 sites across Canada, which is funded by the Canadian Institute of Health Researchers and partners like us. The CLF works closely with the CDTRP to enhance the survival and quality of life of Canadians who undergo transplantation through multidisciplinary, collaborative, and leading-edge research. Under Dr. West's leadership, the CDTRP connects more scientists, students, collaborators, patient partners, and knowledge users at its sites throughout Canada to carry out research and develop resources to increase access to transplantation and improve survival and quality of life of transplant patients. For us, we know the liver is the second most transplanted organ in Canada, and with a shortage of organs in the country, it is so vital to ensure that every liver transplant has the best possible outcomes. And this is why we work on this kind of research or support it, because this really does hold the key. I would be remiss not to mention as well that Dr. West was also appointed as an officer of the Order of Canada recently. So congratulations on that amazing honor. So it is my privilege and my pleasure to be chatting with Dr. West today. Dr. West, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure to be here, Morgan.
Hope I got everything in that introduction, but I am going to hand it over to you to sort of elaborate on some of this. So I thought a great place to start for our community is really for you to introduce yourself in your own words, your role and roles and work, I guess, in relation to the CDTRP and what you do in that capacity.
Well, you gave a very nice introduction. Thank you very much, Morgan. I guess starting with me as a researcher, I'm a clinician scientist myself. So I am clinically trained to look after not liver patients, but rather pediatric heart transplant patients. That's my clinical role. But I also am a scientist in that I also have in-depth research training in the science of transplant immunology. And so having a background in both of those areas has equipped me quite well to explore the very broad sciences and areas of research that transplantation and donation touch in almost any way, shape, or form. I learned early on that we could learn a lot. I mean, my clinical role is a very small population of patients, but that we could learn a lot from patients who required other organs to be transplanted, in particular kidney and liver, because the populations are so much larger. And once you break out of your kind of home organ, as you might call it, you can begin to see very easily the commonalities across transplantation and therefore the science that may be widely applicable. And so I brought that to the work that I did as I was starting out in my career. But the real opportunity came when the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, CIHR, recognized that the transplant communities really broadly would probably be at a state where they would benefit from targeted attention in order to meet the problems, the overriding problems of these communities. And you've already spelled out that those have to do with organ shortages, including, importantly, liver, as well as imperfect long-term results of transplantation. And so they developed an opportunity to link together across the nation researchers not only in organ transplantation, but quite unusually in bone marrow or stem cell transplantation, as well as in donation. And historically, these communities haven't really had much opportunity to work together before because we all come from kind of different backgrounds. And so this was a wonderful opportunity, and it was the start of the Canadian Donation and Transplantation Research Program. And what we do in that program, as you've already mentioned, it's a very broad interdisciplinary network of researchers across the country and across all streams of research that impact donation and transplantation. Everything from the social sciences and humanities that have to do with transplantation and donation, ethics, philosophy, psychosocial outcomes, quality of life, and so on, right through to the four sort of standard, we might think of them as standard pillars of health-related research, and right into the very basic fundamental sciences of natural sciences and engineering, such as chemistry, computing sciences, engineering, and so on. And through this comprehensive approach, we've had a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of the strengths in Canada, the very many strengths in Canada, and work together in a unique way.
Incredible. It's really such an important and relevant area for our community, certainly within the liver disease space. And as you say, it really does touch on so many different things. It's not just the actual transplantation itself, it's everything that intersects with that and the care after the fact. So it's amazing that we're able to be a part of this work, because it really does have such an impact on our community. You've touched quite a bit, I think, on what the work of the organization does, or what the program does. But I guess if I had to ask you, what excites you the most about the research and the progress that's being made in the study of transplantation, and I guess more specifically for our folks, how that can impact liver care in Canada?
Well, I have to say that, so I've mentioned a little bit about how the CDTRP our launching an organization gave us the opportunity to bring together researchers across the country. Perhaps, though, in answer to this question, what I should tell you, though, is what it also gave us the opportunity to do was to explore partnerships in new and unique ways. And one of those was the partnership that we developed early on with the Canadian Liver Foundation. This was monumental in helping us reach out and include the very important, include in a more direct way, the very important patients that are assisted and supported by the efforts of the CLF. And that was really foundational for us. And it gave us a way to look at maybe unusual and new ways, and innovative ways to develop partnerships a little bit outside of perhaps what we had normally thought about. And I give CLF all credit for helping us understand and working with us to develop a flexible partnership. And then we discovered, with that kind of a basis, we discovered that that approach could be taken to broader partnership development at every level. Because if you work with the premise that for a partnership to be successful, whether it's with foundations or with industry or with other entities or people, it really has to be mutually beneficial. That allowed us really to develop all kinds of novel partnerships, really broadly, I mean, very broadly. One of our most successful partnerships, and again, I'm speaking very broadly here, has been the inclusion of patients and families as a key fundamental pillar of what we do, not as subjects of research only, but rather as participants in determining research priorities, in helping us set direction, in carrying out research projects, in evaluating the impact of research on their lives. That has been so beneficial and so helpful to moving things forward in a way that makes it more certain that we can capitalize on the relevance, the direct relevance of this to patients with, for example, liver disease, or to liver transplant patients, or to patients who need a liver transplant and and are thinking about the impact of the organ donor shortage. So those sorts of things have been personally very gratifying to me, because it allows me as a researcher myself to see the impact of partnership development and to kind of look at it more broadly. Of course, I still, as a clinician and a scientist, get enormous intellectual satisfaction from and stimulation from the science I do in my lab and the patients I look after. I think that's the kind of germ that sort of can drive it all. But it's a real opportunity, and I've been very honored to be able to lead an organization that has allowed us to take that concept and philosophy and see its broad impact. And I might just add that the other thing that I've found personally very gratifying is the impact internationally. So Canada, sometimes I think we don't play up and capitalize enough on strengths that may not be unique to Canada, but we see that they are strengths, they're great strengths, and they can lead us forward. This way of organizing a research community has been really picked up internationally and is now often used in several places as a kind of a template to say, how can we have a comprehensive national and then maybe multinational way to approach transplant and donation, which includes, of course, many patients who have liver disease.
Yeah, it's like that old adage, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's amazing to see that it can be a template for ultimately the progress in care, which is totally aligned with what we at the CLF are so passionate about and are proud to be able to partner with and fund. I guess on a more personal level, one of the things we're also trying to do with these series is to sort of remind people that people like yourself are, yes, you clearly have devoted your life to this work, which is fantastic, but you're also a real human being too, just like anybody else who might be affected by liver disease. So if people wanted to get to know you a little bit better, what do you love most about your job as a place to start?
Well, sometimes, and I know this may sound a bit trite because it's been brought up before, sometimes when you're further along in your career, as I am, you go back and think, well, it's actually the learners that stimulate you, because learners come in and they may be learners that are high school students or undergraduate students or graduate students or residents and fellows. And the younger they are generally, the more open they are to asking questions that we tend to put up defenses at later for fear that we'll be perceived as, well, you should have known that maybe. I just love, I really enjoy working with the learners and their questions and their approach to new concepts, new ideas, can often be very stimulating because it can be quite unguarded, and it gives you an opportunity then to either look at things in a new way, or as you explain to them and teach them, come to understand that you may be able to see an application more broadly, as you explain things. They always said, you know, if it's a difficult concept, can you explain it to me like you're telling your mother what you do? So I find that really fun still. I find that really fun. And so I guess, and it's putting puzzles together too. In my own lab, we started last year, like everybody else did, in wondering what COVID was all about. And I'm not a virologist, but I immediately began to wonder whether anything I do in my lab, in my science area, could have an impact on this amazing pandemic that was sweeping the world. And I have to say that was intellectually very interesting too, as we began to put puzzle pieces together to build on what was there and what was rapidly emerging, to see new areas in which our particular work could have an impact. So that's fun in a way too, because it stimulates your mind. You know, and I guess you know, and that includes the impact on. It's always helpful, even though my clinical role is quite small. It's really important to me that I go back and interact with our patients, because that too kind of anchors you in where you're going or trying to go. And so I think maybe the most satisfying thing about my job is that I have the privilege of doing all of those things. And that's really interesting and helpful. And I have the privilege of meeting with all kinds of different partners who are involved in this greater enterprise. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds really gratifying and rewarding, and that therefore that must make it so much fun. Outside of work, what do you like to do to, like, how does one separate themselves or take a break and unwind and relax from this kind of, I imagine, pretty intense work some days?
Well, I love, my husband and I both love the wilderness. And when we came to Alberta in 2005, one of the things that was the most quickly obvious to us was how accessible the wilderness is here. And so we take full advantage of that when we can. My husband loves to go up and fish in the mountains. But just here in the River Valley and in our more contracted world these days of COVID, the opportunities to walk and be surrounded by wilderness is really, really quite wonderful. So I enjoy that. I love to cook, and I used to entertain. I don't do that some more, but those days will come again. I garden, and I ride my horse.
Oh, wow. That's so lovely that you've got a horse. But yes, I also love to entertain, and I'm desperate for the days to be able to start doing that again. But you're right, it's coming soon. And I guess my final question would be, if you had to choose another career totally unrelated to what you do now, what do you think it might be?
I think I would be a field biologist in some way, shape, or form. Before I became interested in medicine, I did a lot of, when I was an undergraduate, I was very interested in biology. I was always interested in biology. And I guess the wilderness as well. I was always interested in science. So I can't imagine that I wouldn't have had a career somehow in science. But I was particularly interested in kind of field work in various parts, various areas of broadly speaking biology, such as working with birds and understanding avian biology and so on. And so I really did enjoy being out in the field a lot. Both of my boys must have picked up on that, because they do a lot of field work in marine biology, in different areas of biology. And so when I have the chance to be with them and spend time with them, I love it when they give me little tasks to do that can help with their work in field biology. And I think that maybe that's something I would have enjoyed doing.
Oh, interesting. So still very much in the world of science.
Well, I think so. I think I just, you know, originally, I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be a linguist of some sort. I really did love, and I still do really enjoy languages, and the way language, the history of it and the way it melds and moves and evolves. So perhaps that might have been another pathway I would have enjoyed.
Well, yeah, that's so fascinating. All very interesting sounding career paths. So that you wouldn't have gone wrong either way. It sounds like you would be fulfilling path, even if it wasn't what you're doing now. Okay, well, this has been so lovely. It's so nice to connect. And I think, for us at the CLF, we're just so excited to be able to kind of bring some of these partners out to the forefront and introduce you to our community, sort of put a face to a name behind the research studies and the work that we're always saying and sharing in our various communications. So thank you for going up first and for being willing to have a chat with us. And of course, thank you for, the work that you are doing. This really is so meaningful and so important to us at the CLF. And I know that for anybody watching, they'll certainly have an appreciation for what you do and what the CDTRP is doing. And we're just really proud to be able to partner with you. So thank you for your time and for chatting today. And hopefully things aren't too bad weather-wise and COVID-wise down in Australia right now. You can enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh no, I'm in Alberta.
Oh, you're in Alberta now. The last time we spoke, you were in Australia.
Yes. No, thank you, Morgan. And once again, we're likewise very proud to have this longstanding partnership with the Canadian Liver Foundation. The work that you do and the research you support is so important. And it's, as I said, it's been one of those really interesting partnerships that has evolved in new and innovative ways. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks again.